What's going on, everybody? This is Al from PlaybookGamer.com, and today we're going to talk about using motion in your offense in NCAA Football 06. In the previous video of our quarterback series, we talked about hot routes. Hot routes are really cool. You can adjust a route on the fly, make a play better. But one little downside to hot routes is if you're playing on the road. The home field advantage feature in 06 is really cool. It makes things a little bit tougher when you're playing on the road, and some players can't hear those hot routes depending on their experience, their age, or just things of that nature. Well, with motion, you don't have to worry about that. You can move guys left or right. You could be in a 300,000 seat stadium, and you can still move guys around with no penalty. But we're going to talk about the basics of motion. We're also going to talk about how to use motion to your advantage in the run game and in the pass game with a couple examples for each. The first thing we're going to talk about is just using motion in general. Let's go ahead and select the play from ace big tight end wide receiver. Now, I'll go ahead and tell you there are 60 plus offensive formations in this game. I can't cover them all in terms of all the various types of motion, but all of them are kind of the same. You just got to play around with them. So let's go ahead and select this formation. And let's just go select a random run play. Let's go and select halfback slam. We'll go up against a random defense. All right. When it comes to using motion, it's very simple. You can hit the up or down arrow to start selecting a player. Let's hit the down arrow. Notice with the down arrow, we got a little icon underneath our halfback. It's a left or a right arrow. Now you can hit left or right. And remember, use the gamepad viewer on the bottom right of the screen to see which buttons I'm pressing. If you hit left or right, he can move. But we got to remember, this is a run play. He is supposed to be getting the ball himself. So if you're calling a run play and you have a halfback with the icon, you cannot hit left or right. You cannot move the guy. That's because he is getting the ball. Okay, but what you can do is move on to the next player. Hit the down arrow again. Now we got an icon below this tight end. We got a left arrow. That means I can motion him over to the left by hitting the left button. Okay, pretty simple. And once he's over there, it looks like we got a right arrow now, which makes sense. He can only go back to the right, and he'll go back to his original position. Let's hit the down arrow again. Let's go to the next tight end. Looks like he's got a left or right arrow, so I'm going to hit the left button. We can motion him over here. We can move him back to his original position. We can also, once he's at his original position, move him over to the right, and now he is in the slot, which is really cool. Okay, some of these formations have some really neat motions. You just got to play around with them. So let's move him back to his original spot, and let's go to the next player. Looks like the wide receiver on the far right can be moved over to the left. So if we move him over, he goes over to the left side. Okay, so let's bring him back to the original spot. And if you hit the down arrow again, it goes back to the halfback. Notice nothing happened with this wide receiver over here. Again, it goes back to all these formations are different. You just got to see which players can be moved around. Okay, so that's the basics of motion, just moving guys around in general. Not much to it, just use the up and down arrows to select a player and left or right to actually move them. So now let's talk about how to use this to your advantage in the run game. Let's start off with ace big tight end wide receiver, and let's select halfback option. I'm going to use this as my toss play. Okay, and let's select a random man play from 4-3. Let's go up against cover 2 man. So one thing you can do is use motion to your advantage in the run game, and one way to do that is to simplify your numbers. And what I mean by this is, notice I'm on the left hash. I got a lot more grass to play with on this side compared to this side. And notice how the defense motioned or slide their defensive line to this side. I do not want to run to the left side. I want to run to the right. Okay, so in order to simplify my numbers over here, I can motion this wide receiver over, taking his sweet time. And now look, I got less bodies to worry about. Yes, if I would have kept him over there, he could have made it a killer block on this defensive back. Or I don't have to worry about it, and I can just get him out of the way. So let's go ahead and snap the ball. And from here, you just got to make your plays. And again, you're just gaining that little extra advantage on that side. So we could do it again. I'm not even worried about what they're shifting. I want to go to the right side regardless. Let's just go over here. And did it help us a little bit? Now look all this room we got to play with. Really neat. I like it. So when it comes to man in the run game, you can simplify your numbers by just decreasing the amount of bodies on one side of the field. Okay, so let's talk about using that against zone. Let's select halfback slam from the same formation, and let's go up against basic cover 2 zone. Now when it comes to zone, we want to add an extra blocker. So what you can do is hit the up or down arrow and just pick whatever player you want. Let's select this wide receiver. Let's say I want to go to the left side of the field. I'm going to motion this guy over, And look at this. Now we got an extra blocker on this side. So what if I run to the left? Does it help me any? Looks like it does. A big gaping hole to the left side. Only because we had that extra blocker on that side to block somebody. He blocked that linebacker, and we got a big hole up the C gap, and we're ready to make some serious plays. Okay, let's do it again. Looks like that's a normal inside shift by the defensive front seven. What if I want to move this defense or this tight end over? I want to run to the left. My strength is on the left side. We can pretend that's the case. And I just want to make sure I'm running to the left. Getting that extra blocker, does it help? Looks like it does. So think, when it comes to man, simplify your numbers. When it comes to zone, add an extra blocker somewhere if you can. Now, you don't have to do this, but it's just a nice little wrinkle that you can make things a little bit easier on yourself by doing stuff like this right here. Just a really good situation to be in. So that's how you can use motion in the run game to make things a little bit easier on yourself. But what about the passing game? The first thing we want to talk about is, let's go to shotgun wing tight end. That's one of my updated formations in my master playbook file. Let's go ahead and select, how about scissors in? Okay, I'm going to select that, and we'll go up against man. How can we use motion against man in the passing game? So if you look at this play here, we've already discussed a lot of the routes, which ones work. A lot of these are going to work against man, especially this little dig route and the bigger dig. Well, what I could do is I can motion this tight end over, turn him into an out route that's a little bit safer than that dig. Okay, so I'm going to select that. I can motion him over there. I can throw it to him. That's just a really good defensive play. We can try that one more time. I'm going to bring him over. We'll do this. Let's see if he can get open like this. Much better. Just a little bit. He should have caught it. But either way, that's the point I'm making. What also makes it a little bit better is if I motion him over, this actually clears things out for the deep dig, which is another great man beater. So just that one little adjustment means I can do some serious damage against man. I just need these guys to catch the ball a little bit. So let's try this one more time. I motion him over. I clear things out a little bit, and that's just another great defensive play. Good job, Ball State. I'm going to do this one more time, see if I can make this look decent. I'm going to move him over. I gave myself a better out route, better than the little dig. So I can go to either one. I'm going to try to go to this dig, and there we go. So just a little motion like that makes a whole lot of difference in against man. So what about zone? Let's go ahead and go to gun spread, and let's go with deep attack. It's kind of the same thing we just saw, that in reverse. Let's select that, and let's go up against a quarters coverage, for example. So here we are, deep attack. Now we have an out route, but we know the defense is going zone. So right now, this is kind of a useless route. We could do a hot route. We talked about that in the previous video. We can have him come over here, maybe hit a center beater, or we can use motion. We can go select him and move him over. Now we got a little center beater. And if there's a hole over the middle, I can go right there, and boom, we picked up some really good yards. Okay, so that's like the opposite effect of what we just saw with man. We can move a guy over to make things a little bit easier, give us an extra zone beater to play around with. Something like this. Okay, a very simple adjustment, but it makes all the difference in your passing game. The last thing we're going to talk about is how to do it like via play action, but it's still like a zone beater situation. Let's go back to ace big tight end wide receiver, and let's select PA tight end choice. Okay, I'm going to select that, and we're going to go up against cover 2 zone. Now, in that zone beaten offensive video that we talked about, especially with play action, I should say, we talked about how to use the go route play action against cover 2 and how you can hit that spot. But you notice we have an impact strong safety. Maybe I don't want to attack him. He's really talented. What you can do is use a play like this, and you can motion this wide receiver over to the left to get this guy wide open to attack this guy. So let's do that instead. So let's make him move over here, and let's snap the ball and see if we can make a play with our corner route. Something like this. So what we have done is we have done two things. We have avoided this guy right here by motioning the receiver over, and now we are attacking this safety over here because this go route is going to occupy this safety to get this corner wide open. And with play action, it brings this corner down. All it takes is one little adjustment, and now you can easily attack a free safety, who is the weaker safety of the two. Okay? Just a really good, simple adjustment, and now we picked up 20-plus yards with that alone. All right, those are just a few examples, and you got some basics of motion and just kind of moving guys around. I highly suggest you go into practice mode, play a lot with your formations, move some guys around, see if you can come up with good matchups and such. There's just a lot of different things you could do with that. And I didn't even mention matchups because we're going to talk about using matchups in another video, and then all that can just really come together and your offense can get really explosive after that. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later.